Welcome to SOMA BreathFit, how to breathe to achieve optimum health and wellness. My name is Niraj Naik. I have a master's degree in pharmacy, and I'm also the founder of one of the fastest growing breathwork, wellness and meditation communities, SOMA Breath. A perfect human breathes as though they are not breathing at all. This was said by a famous Chinese philosopher called Lao Tzu, who was living around 600 BC. This presentation is going to see whether this statement actually is true, and also to show why Lao Tzu could potentially be the most wise philosopher that ever existed. So in order to do this, we need to go through a timeline of history of where we came to the realization of the role of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and reduced breathing rates for your health. So in order to do this, we must first pay our respects to Dr. Konstantin Buteyko. So Dr. Buteyko was the creator of the Buteyko method, which is still widely used in modern times to treat asthma and hypertension. He was a Ukrainian medical doctor who also developed the correct oxygen-carbon dioxide ratios for space travel in Soviet Russia. He actually studied yogic texts and discovered reduced breathing exercises, which he used to heal his own severe hypertension, and also led to the development of the Buteyko method. He witnessed unhealthy patients having fast and deep breathing patterns. And when he slowed the breathing rates of his patients, the symptoms seemed to diminish. He showed scientifically in various studies the link between chronic hyperventilation and disease. Buteyko considered that majority of people in the world overbreathe and hyperventilate and breathe much faster than they need to. And this is what leads to chronic disease that could be avoided by learning how to breathe correctly. So now let's look at Pranayama, which is the system of ancient breathing exercises from India that inspired Dr. Buteyko. This system was actually inspired by studying animals in nature. And the ancient yogis understood that respiration and breathing is linked to the production of energy in your body. And they also observed that animals that live a long time have very slow breathing patterns compared to animals that don't live a very long time. And here is a table, a chart of breathing rates versus lifespan for various mammals. So can you actually breathe less and live longer? Well, in the animal kingdom, this seems to be quite apparent. See, like whales have breathing rates of around 4 to 6 breaths per minute and even lower, and they can live 100 years plus. And mice, on the other hand, have very fast breathing rates, 150 breaths per minute, and their average lifespan is around 1 to 2 years. Humans have the conscious ability to control our rate of breath. This is what the ancient yogis understood, and that's why we can actually hack our physiology to manipulate how long we can live, according to the ancient yogic system. So there are some strange anomalies to this rule that actually also suggest that reduced breathing rates is very, very useful for your health. One of them is the naked mole rat. The naked mole rat's different from normal rats because it can actually hold its breath up to 18 minutes at a time, and it lives primarily underground in hypoxic conditions. It can actually live up to 30 years free of disease, and actually scientists studying them tried to give them cancer, and they couldn't actually give them cancer. They were so robust. And the bowhead whale, which actually is the oldest living whales found in nature, which can live up to 200 years free of disease, can hold its breath up to 2 hours at a time. So there seems to be a link between reducing breathing and longevity and wellness. This is what made me realize that there is an oxygen paradox. And there are some common misconceptions about breathing. These misconceptions are deep, heavy breathing equals being healthy. And that CO2, carbon dioxide, is actually a toxic waste gas. And breathing more means getting more oxygen to cells. Well, in order to really understand each one of these myths, in order for us to debunk them, we need to also understand the science of breathing itself and human respiration. So, respiration takes place in the cells of our body in the mitochondria. Oxygen combines with glucose and it creates carbon dioxide, water, and ATP energy. ATP is this photonic light energy that drives all of the functions of life inside the body. Now, we've always been told that oxygen is vital to life and the carbon dioxide is a toxic waste gas. But actually, even if you drink 5 to 7 liters of water in one go, we can actually die from overconsumption of water. So excess of pretty much anything can be toxic. But carbon dioxide, you're going to find out, is actually not toxic at all to the body, except in extremely high doses, which you'd never really consume, and is actually essential to getting oxygen to where it needs to go in your body and your overall health. So the big problem with oxygen is oxidative stress. And the pioneer in the research of oxidative stress is an amazing professor called Helmut Sees, and he says this one statement: although it is very difficult to live without oxygen, it is also very difficult to live with oxygen because of oxidative stress. Oxidative stress leads to inflammation in the body, free radical damage in the cells, and can also cause your cells to die sooner. And this cellular degeneration can actually lead to chronic disease and also shortening your lifespan. And this is one of the reasons we need antioxidants in our diet, because it protects against this oxidative stress. And it's quite clear now why reducing oxygen and training yourself to be very efficient use oxygen can actually do more good than harm in the long term. And that the ancient yogis were very wise in their understanding of respiration. So why is it that we naturally breathe at a faster rate than we need to? In order to understand this, we need to understand the evolution of oxygen in our atmosphere. You see, oxygen levels are now 20% higher and CO2 levels are just 0.03% today than when vertebrates first evolved on this planet. We are actually breathing at the same rate as our ancestors, and we need to consciously evolve our breathing patterns to suit our modern environment. You see, back in the past, we would actually have to breathe at a faster rate in order to get the oxygen we need, because the oxygen levels were so low. It was only like 1% of the atmosphere was oxygen. So now, with higher oxygen levels in the atmosphere, we actually don't need to breathe at the fast rates that we naturally do. And we can consciously control the rate of our breath. And that's the amazing wisdom that we get from pranayama, meaning through controlling our rate of breath, we can actually live longer and even prevent disease. So another thing we need to understand is the Bohr Effect. The Bohr Effect is what allows the body to know where to deliver oxygen to. Every single tissue cell, the cells of your muscle and your body, actually breathes, respires, and produces carbon dioxide. Those carbon dioxide levels in the environment around the cell signals the red blood cells to drop off oxygen in that area. Nitric oxide and carbon dioxide also help to signal the blood to know exactly where to deliver this oxygen via the Bohr effect. The Bohr effect is something that a scientist called Christian Bohr discovered when he showed that the affinity for oxygen to your red blood cells is dependent on carbon dioxide levels. Therefore, if we overbreathe, if we hyperventilate, because every time we breathe out, every exhale, we release carbon dioxide. If we overbreathe and hyperventilate, we actually release too much carbon dioxide, and that means that we get too much oxygen stuck to the red blood cells. This causes oxidative stress and also prevents oxygen from going to where it actually needs to go. So we end up getting inflammation in our arteries, and it also leads to coronary blocks and thrombosis over time. It also means that we get tiredness, fatigue, and degeneration of cells because we're not getting the oxygen to where it really needs to go, which is the tissue cells. And that's why we need to learn how to control the rate of breath and become super efficient at using oxygen. So we need to breathe less over time, not more. So carbon dioxide is actually a very important gaseous molecule produced during respiration, is essential for the Bohr effect, and is only toxic in very high doses that is not possible to create through just reduced breathing exercises. You would actually have to force carbon dioxide into your system, which you're never going to do in Pranayama or in SOMA breath. It is also a vasodilator. It's a bronchodilator, which means it keeps your blood vessels nice and relaxed. And it also even relaxes the body and the muscles. So actually carbon dioxide is actually used as a treatment for panic attacks. If you've ever had a panic attack, you may know that feeling. You get that tightness in your chest. It feels like you're going to have a heart attack. You get nervousness, panic. And this is all because lack of carbon dioxide in your bloodstream freaks your body out. It thinks you're going to die. And you get very, very tense. So what do? You're told to breathe through a paper bag, because what that means is you inhale all the carbon dioxide you're breathing out, and that carbon dioxide actually helps you slow down hyperventilation. It actually helps relax the body and calm the nervous system down. It is actually your carbon dioxide levels in your blood that tells your brain that you need to breathe again. So when your carbon dioxide levels reach a certain point from respiration, that's when your brain says, okay, I need more oxygen. And that tells you to breathe, to inhale. However, some people don't have a very high tolerance for carbon dioxide, meaning that just even a relatively small concentration of carbon dioxide in the blood can actually trigger the brain to tell you to need to breathe again, when it doesn't actually need to. You could actually hold your breath for quite a significantly long time before you need that next inhalation. So reduced breathing exercises and our SOMA BreathFit techniques are all designed to actually improve your carbon dioxide tolerance. The better your carbon dioxide tolerance, the longer your breath retention time and slower your overall breathing rate will be. And then we have nitric oxide, and this is also a very important gaseous molecule produced in the nose. It's a powerful antioxidant, has a similar role to carbon dioxide in the Bohr effect. It's also a vasodilator and bronchodilator. It relaxes the body. It's also an anti-inflammatory and antiviral, and has antibacterial properties. So it's actually one of the most important molecules in the body. However, when you hyperventilate and when you overbreathe due to bad breathing habits and stress, you actually expel excess carbon dioxide from your bloodstream. So this disrupts carbon dioxide levels in the blood and the Bohr effect. It lowers tissue oxygen levels, and it can, if it's a chronic problem, can lead to hypertension, chronic tension, pain, inflammation, and disease. And overbreathing is caused by stress. When you actually are stressed out, you actually have a higher demand for oxygen. Your body thinks you're going into fight and flight mode, that you need to go and attack or defend. And emotional stress triggers this response as well as physical stress. And This means you tend to have a faster breathing rate. So by slowing your breathing pattern down, we can actually prevent hyperventilation and the harmful effects of it. And also working on our stress levels and our sources of stress and how we deal with stress can help us reduce hyperventilation and harmful effects. Another thing that also leads to hyperventilation is mouth breathing. And that's why it's very important to breathe through your nose. You see, the nose is the filter for the air you breathe. It prepares the air for absorption via the lungs, it reduces airflow, and also produces nitric oxide. So when you mouth breathe, you actually end up over breathing. You end up breathing in too higher a volume of air with every breath. And you also breathe out too much air in one go. And what that means is you lose too much carbon dioxide and you breathe in too much oxygen. This leads to hyperventilation and the disruption of the Bohr Effect. Humming is actually very beneficial. Just simply humming alone makes you produce 7 times more nitric oxide than nasal breathing. So that's one of the fast ways to start producing beneficial nitric oxide. And actually the act of humming, when you extend your exhalation, you're going to see very shortly, is actually a way for you to increase carbon dioxide levels, calm the nervous system down, because by humming you also trigger the vagus nerve, which stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which switches off the flight and fight response and actually creates a calming effect over your whole nervous system. So why things like humming, singing, chanting is very, very beneficial for your health, especially things like chanting Om. And that's why humming and Om chanting is integral to the SOMA breath system that I've developed, but also is a core part of ancient traditional yoga. Dr. Buteyko also developed a very effective measurement of your health, which is the breath hold time. He called it also the controlled pause. This is actually a measure of your body tissue oxygen levels. And in medical science, it's also used as a way to determine the state of somebody's health. This is actually a measurement of how long you can hold your breath after a normal, relaxed exhale. And when you're holding your breath, when you get to the first urge to breathe, where your next inhale would be the same length of an inhale, where your inhale after you've held your breath isn't a forced inhale, where you're not gasping for air at the end of it, where you just are able to inhale normally without any stress. That's an accurate measurement of your body tissue oxygen levels. And it's something you should measure in the first 5 to 10 minutes of waking up. The morning breath hold time is the best and most accurate reading of your state of health. It also tells you how well you've rejuvenated and rested during your sleep. Your breath hold time is also affected by your quality of sleep, your diet, and also the level of exercise that you do. So our system of SOMA breath is designed to train you in all of these areas in a holistic way to progressively increase your breath hold time. And that's why SOMA breath is a very holistic system. But the breath hold time is a great way for you to measure how well you're doing with your training in these techniques. Another big factor that can affect your breath hold time is whether you breathe diaphragmatically or through your chest. In fact, this can be one of the easiest ways to increase your breath hold time, just by being mindful of how you breathe. Just by switching from chest breathing to diaphragmatic breathing. When you breathe through your diaphragm, you actually stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system receptors, which keeps you calm and relaxed. Whereas if you breathe through your chest, you actually start to hyperventilate and end up stimulate the sympathetic nervous system receptors, which actually causes more stress, which can put you into fight and flight mode. Now let's look at breathing patterns and how this relates to your state of health. So breathing patterns are the way you should breathe during the day, majority of the day. And by doing the various breathing exercises, you will actually train yourself to make this into an unconscious habit, so you don't have to think too much about doing it. And there's a difference between super healthy breathing patterns and what is more commonly done by most people, that is the poor breathing patterns. There's a very big difference. First, let's look at the yogic or super healthy breathing pattern. If you can breathe like this naturally, then you're going to enjoy excellent health. If you look at very well-trained yogis, they will look like they hardly breathe at all, just like Lao Tzu suggests. They will have a very slight inhale through the nostrils into the diaphragm, and it will look like they're hardly breathing at all. The slight inhale is followed by an extended exhalation, where the exhalation time can be double or longer than their inhale time, which will then be followed by an automatic breath hold. The exhale will be very, very relaxed, with the weight of gravity naturally bringing the exhale down, where every muscle is actually very relaxed at the end of the exhale. There's no tension on your exhale. And this will be followed by an automatic breath hold. That's right. This is where you will naturally hold your breath. And this can actually go on for several seconds and even before you need to breathe again. And the next inhale will be again relaxed. So super healthy yogis have very slow breathing rates of 2 to 8 breaths per minute. And they have very long breath hold times of 60 seconds to even 180 seconds. So now let's look at normal breathing pattern. This is for normal health, as in where you are actually healthy. So the new normal for most people should be at least this breathing pattern. So many people are suffering from the consequences of abnormal breathing and hyperventilation. So a normal healthy breathing pattern looks like this. You would again have a slight inhale, just like in yogic breathing, into the diaphragm through the nose, followed by an extended exhalation with no force, completely relaxed, where every muscle is relaxed at the end of the exhale, before the next inhale is taken. There may not be an automatic pause. And a normal person should breathe 10 to 12 breaths per minute on average and have at least a 40-second breath hold time or more. However, most people are having unhealthy breathing patterns and are actually having poor health as a result, not optimum health. And actually, many people breathe 15 to 20 breaths per minute on average and have very short breath hold times of 10 to 20 seconds. When you get lower than 10 seconds, that's when you're very sick. And anything below 5 seconds, it could be an indication that you're going to die. So if you're having an unhealthy breathing pattern right now, then this is something that you can actually solve, and it's best to do this quickly before you get into a chronic health condition. So another key benefit of rhythmic breathing is heart coherence. And this was actually studied in great depth by HeartMath Institute, as well as Professor Alan Watkins, who really has a fascinating TED Talk all about this, which is worth checking out, where he clearly shows the benefits of rhythmic breathing and exactly what happens to your heart when you breathe in rhythm. But actually, just to break this down for you so it's easy to understand, remember this, that every time you breathe in, your heart rate goes up a bit and your sympathetic nervous system switched on. Every time you breathe out, your heart rate goes down a bit and your parasympathetic nervous system is switched on. When you breathe in a perfect rhythm, you actually create a perfect sine wave of your heart rate. So if you look at this table, you can see that if you don't breathe in a rhythm, you create incoherence, and the breathing pattern is all over the place. Your heart rate fluctuates all over the place. When you breathe in a perfect rhythm, it creates this coherent state, and you can see almost like a smooth sine wave being developed. And this leads to optimum blood flow between your heart and your brain. It balances the nervous system. And what it also does is it improves your emotional state. You'll feel more positive emotions easier. However, incoherence, which is triggered by negative emotions, frustration, anxiety, worry, irritation, actually knocks out your ability to be able to think clearly. And you go into more of a fight or flight response, and your neocortex activity, which deals with awareness and being able to concentrate and focus on things, gets affected. But in a coherent state, all of this works in harmony, all the functions of your body work in harmony, and it's actually easier to develop positive emotions. But positive emotions, when you feel them, can also bring you into coherence. Also, listening to music that you love can actually bring you into a state of coherence naturally. Listening to rhythmic breathing can actually even entrain your breath to that beat, to that rhythm. You can also breathe in time with music to create coherence, because the music will allow you to time your breath in and out perfectly to that rhythm. And this can lead to performance. So if you want to get stuff done, if you want to really be at your best every day, you want optimal performance, and that comes from creating a state of heart coherence. And also, frustration, anger can throw you off and put you into a state of incoherence, which affects your whole physiology and stops you from feeling good. So how you feel is directly linked to your ability to get into coherence. And when you actually just start breathing in a rhythm, it can actually start to make you feel good, and you can use it as a tool to balance your emotional state. So this is another amazing quality of breathing. And this is something that was already known by the ancient yogis. They developed a technique called Savitri Pranayama, which is a rhythmic breathing exercise, and actually forms a foundation of SOMA breath. As we use music and beats for you to time your breath to, that makes the whole process of getting into coherence a lot easier and more fun. So what we've just seen is the timeline in the history of our understanding of respiration, and why there's a lot of wisdom in these ancient techniques, as well as in the modern science of Buteyko. Now I want to talk to you about how we can actually model some of the strongest and fittest people on the planet, and develop even more advanced breathing techniques that can actually take you into superhuman levels of health. So here's a secret of the world's fittest soldiers. In 2019, Nirmal Purja, who's an ex-Gurkha soldier, scaled all 14 peaks that are above 8,000 meters in just 6 months. This is an incredible feat. The Gurkha soldiers are actually considered the world's strongest army, and they're actually used by the British and the Americans to win their battles. They're very robust. They live up in high altitudes in mountains where the oxygen levels are very low, carbon dioxide levels are higher, and this seems to train them for more strength and endurance. And by actually studying the health and lifestyles of people who live at high altitudes, there's become a new recent development of high altitude training and also intermittent hypoxic training. So in the 1968 Mexican Olympics, athletes were smashing world records. What set this Olympic Games apart from the rest was that it was done at high altitudes. See, scientists determined that training at high altitude in low oxygen environments seems to improve overall fitness and stamina. And this is what led to the development of high altitude training and intermittent hypoxic training techniques. Intermittent hypoxic training is therapy that's developed using machines that simulates high altitude by giving you a dose of normal oxygen followed by low oxygen for several minutes in a sequence over a specific protocol that actually gives you more fitness, stamina, endurance, and better health outcomes. So here are some of the benefits of intermittent hypoxia. And intermittent hypoxia is the state that's developed by lowering your breath or holding your breath for several seconds or even minutes of time. Or when you go up to a mountain where the oxygen levels are very low, you'll develop a state of intermittent hypoxia, a brief period of lower than normal oxygen. So this trains you for oxygen efficiency, meaning you need less oxygen to produce the same amount of energy. It relieves chronic tension because you produce more carbon dioxide and nitric oxide. It improves cardiovascular health and circulation because when you create a state of intermittent hypoxia, your body freaks out and thinks that you're going to run out of oxygen. So it prepares by actually producing better cardiovascular proliferation of arteries and veins around your body, improving blood flow to your organs and tissues, and you also produce more red blood cells and increase circulation to your brain and heart, and also improve the strength and endurance of your mitochondria and efficiency of their ability to produce energy. So it actually works by creating a positive stress response in your body, which then makes your body grow back stronger as a result in response to that stress. And some of the other incredible benefits of it is that it actually stimulates neurogenesis, the growth of new brain cells. It also induces p53, guardian of the genome, which actually is shown to prevent tumor growth. And it can also awaken stem cells in your circulation. So with deeper practice and following a correct protocol, intermittent hypoxia actually creates the right conditions for stem cells to be activated. Stem cells hate oxygen. They hide in your body in areas of very low oxygen, like your bone marrow and in circulation, where a stem cell is surrounded by normal cells which use up all the oxygen, so that it lives in a hypoxic environment. And we can, thankfully, create intermittent hypoxia, this brief period of lower than normal oxygen, through simple breathing exercises. So introducing SOMA BreathFit. This is the evolution of yoga, pranayama, and Buteyko reduced breathing exercises. It also makes high altitude training and intermittent hypoxic training as simple as breathing. And it also includes proprietary music technology to make the breathing exercises more fun and easy to do. It also teaches you a holistic approach to improving your BHT, your breath hold time, by training you to sleep more effectively, to have the right diet for your body, and also the right kind of exercise that also trains you for oxygen efficiency and strength.